So Nestor Gibbs here with ThaBoxingvoice.com in association with Fight Hype. So these questions are, our most loyal listeners that listen to the Boxing Voices podcast. We got Victor Banuelos from Tijuana. No. Tunganga, California? Tunganga? I don't know.
I'm East
He
Coast.
says, what's up, champ? What is the most difficult thing about pursuing a boxing career, and what is the easiest thing about boxing?
Well, that's a good question. So the most difficult thing about pursuing a boxing career, I'm gonna give it a little bit of twofold difficulty. One, getting the right team behind you, right? Now, the reason why this is very important is not just for you to develop the proper skills and technique involved with boxing, but having the right team behind you could help move you into, due to their past history with working with past fighters, it can help move you into the arms of a good manager or a good promoter. Getting in with a good manager and a good promoter and not getting benched early on in your career, not taking 4 years to make yourself 10-0 as you're starting as a professional fighter. So the hardest thing is to get the ball rolling properly, get the right people behind you, and get over that 15-0 hump. Unless if you weigh like 110 pounds, it's really hard to get elevated till you build up your record. So getting off the ground has to be one of the hardest things in the sport of boxing, because the 4-round level, it's very easy to get a draw or a loss. You gotta win 3 out of 4 rounds. This is what I tell my young bloods all the time. You gotta win 3 out of 4 rounds to win the fight, which means you might as well just win the whole freaking fight. You gotta dominate the fight. You know, you don't got rounds to give away. It's not 12-round championship level. You know, you're a sprinter, you're not a marathon runner. So there's a lot of small little things like that that are very challenging in getting to that 15-0, 17-0 mark before you start really getting your name out there, elevating yourself. But nowadays with social media and all these YouTubers and different ways of just getting your fight seen, like it was streamed. Like you might be 5-0, but your knockout still happened to be on YouTube. That's very good for these young kids. So boxing is changing, but I still believe that what I just said is one of the hardest things in the sport of boxing, getting off the ground and getting the right people behind you. Now, one of the easiest things in boxing, I would say one of the easiest things is it's not really the easiest, but one of the easiest things is just learning how to box. You know, I don't consider boxing the most complicated sport to learn. I consider it it's complicated to master, okay? But when it comes to learning, that's why you go to a gym, you travel, you just happen to be in California, you happen to be in New York, you happen to be in Texas or Florida where we are now. And you go to a gym and you see the best fighter in the gym and you're like, man, that boy real nice and this and that. But then you see a whole lot of fighters and you're like, damn, he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. It doesn't take a lot to be a good fighter. It takes a lot to be a great fighter. You know? So I would say just learning boxing, for people who just want to learn boxing and maybe get in the ring and just kind of learn how to protect themselves and work off the jab and learn how to hold their own in the ring, I don't think it's the hardest to do. A lot of people hold their own. And this is what I tell a lot of young bloods, like, yeah, kid, you're boxing against everybody. Are you dominating people? So there's a difference when you want to become a champion or you really want to be in this sport. You got
Picking up where we left off, Big Casual says, what's up, champ? If you had an opportunity to choose your next opponent from these 3 names, which would you pick after being out of the ring 2 years plus? Yordani Ulgas, Mikey Garcia, or Virgil Ortiz?
That's a tough one. You know, the Mikey fight is interesting. You know, I know he's a smaller guy and everything. I didn't really like his performance against Spence. I think they did a lot of outside boxing. But, you know, I think Ugas would make the best fight. I know he respects me a lot. and I know he'd be honored to be in the ring, and I know he would do his best to come out victorious, and I just think stylistically that we could make a great fight.
David Maldonado, New York City. What's up, champ? Who you have winning between Earl and Manny, and please compare the difference in punching power between Danny Garcia and Manny Pacman and Porter. So you already gave your pick on Earl and Pacman, so just, I guess, compare the power between Danny, Porter, and Pacman.
Yeah, you know, if we're gonna talk about power, for me, nobody hit like Danny. Pacquiao, it's weird. Danny felt like a big brick. Pacquiao felt like a little brick. Okay. Now the weird part is Pacquiao's hands just felt heavy, and I was looking at a picture that my dad framed up at his house. He took a picture of me and Pac trading body blows, and I was thinking to myself, after the fight, I constantly was thinking, why did his fist feel like a rock? You know, it was like awkward, right? I was like, why did his fist feel so hard in the fight? You know, I was like, it was a little awkward. You know, I don't really care about that stuff that much. I mean, I could handle it. It wasn't devastating. Didn't really feel like plaster, but it felt like something. Felt like a rock. So I thought, like, does he do certain training? Does he do certain, you know, does he build up calluses? Does he have more dense bone density in his hands? Did they do some Asian stuff? What did they do? Who knows, right? And then looking at the picture, I was like, damn, you know what? Pacquiao wore them old school Mexican Reyes. And back when me and Ben Getty was knocking everybody out, we always wore those Mexican Reyes gloves. And I was like, ooh, what would it have felt like for Pacquiao if I would have wore those Reyeses? And I just had that thought come across my mind. So Pacquiao, he does hit hard, he hits fast, but as a welterweight, it's not the hardest punch I've ever felt. It's the hardest punch I ever felt coming from a little guy like Pacquiao. I never felt power from a little guy the way I felt it from Pacquiao. But Danny Garcia, the way he plants his feet, and it's almost like a power car, the way he develops torque into his punches. No, I mean, he's not even a real welterweight, and to me, he was the hardest hitting welterweight that I faced. So I still believe that Errol has big punches. Sean, though I haven't felt Errol, just analyzing it from outside, it looks like a devastating blow. Sean Porter, he pulls his punches back too much. He pulls them back too much and doesn't punch.
Feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars and Title, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.